Hi, I am Grace Jasmine. I am the producer for Loud Karma Productions, and this is Loud Karma Talks Theater. And we are very, very lucky today because Talisa Friedman is with us, and she is going to talk to us about her playwriting and her background and all of the exciting projects she has coming up at the moment, and then also a little bit about when we first met through the Loud Karma Award and her play So Baby. So let's get started with Talisa. Hi, Talisa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So how's your day going?
Good. I went on a hike through the hills this morning,
Oh,
so
did you
a little
really?
warm up.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're in Southern California, is that right?
Yeah, I live in Studio City.
Oh, okay, cool. I actually really love Studio City. So it's still, you're getting some nice weather out there and it's perfect for hiking at the moment.
It is a little warm, but
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
cool. That's a nice way to clear your head.
Yeah.
So, you obviously won one of the places in our award last year,
Yeah.
and it was for your play So Baby, which was an awesome play. We're going to talk about that in depth. But for the people who are watching and listening today, give us a little overview about your background, who you are as a writer, who you are as a person, a little bit about your background in education, and so on.
Sure. So I grew up in DC, Washington, DC, although I lived in South Africa for a couple of years when I was a kid,
Oh, wow.
which gave me sort of a different perspective, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like a super theater kid, grew up going to Interlochen, in the summers and did all the plays and musicals at my high school. But then I ended up I went to Harvard for undergrad, and got an English major there because a lot of the advice I was getting was like, go get a liberal arts degree and explore the world. Like, you don't know where life's going to take you,
Sure.
which really worked out great because I met a lot of amazing people and became a much better writer, I think, and got to do a ton of theater there because they don't even really have a department, and so they really let the undergraduates sort of have free reign. So
Oh, that's
like I did a
awesome.
production of Hamlet in a library, and we were all writing our own stuff. It was very free for all. And
Good.
many of my best friends and collaborators are still from that time.
Oh,
Um,
awesome. Okay.
yeah. And then I went to New York after that and was an actor. Like the idea of writing did not enter my mind at all.
Right. Right.
But I kept finding that I was like very meddlesome in the writing process as an actor. I was like, I
So you're
really did
butting
not,
in.
I did not stay in my lane, and I was working on a lot of new works, which was like definitely my preference.
Uh-huh.
I love developing new plays, but I mean, I would hand the writer like new pages and stuff. I mean, I did not understand that that was like highly inappropriate at the time. But what it meant was that a lot of the writers I worked with ended up starting to ask me to like give them feedback. And so I got a lot of reps in like with editing and like learning about play structure and things like that, even though, I didn't have any technical formal training. And then when I moved out to LA after a couple years, God, it's been like 11 years now. But
Wow.
yeah. And when I moved out here, I felt like everyone I knew was writing a pilot. Like that was
Right.
just sort of the thing to do. So I started trying to do that, and then suddenly, then I got engaged, and my husband is not Jewish, and I am, and suddenly I was very kind of confused about like where my religious background fit into the whole picture, and like a
Hmm.
play just came to me, and so I just wrote a play,
And
and
so that was just to back for a second. That was Who by Fire?
it was, yeah.
Okay. And that was in
Um,
2020 when you first got that
yeah,
produced, or? Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
So
So
tell
that
us a
sort
little bit
of
about that.
yeah, so it follows a Jewish family over the course of six holidays, as they deal with kind of a emotional catastrophe within the family. And
Oh, interesting.
yeah, and it sort of explores what the purpose of religion is in the modern age, and like
Hmm.
by holding on to your religion, does that make you insular and like restrictive of being engaged with other cultures and things like that? So,
Sure.
so that was was sort of the genesis of that play, and then it ended up winning the National Jewish Playwriting Competition that
I
year.
saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
a huge thing, and it gave me a lot of confidence to kind of continue on this path.
Oh, sure.
And then I ended up having a child, and then I had a second child, and so
Been
like
busy.
playwriting fits very well within parenting, I find, because I can do it when they're at school, I can do it when they're sleeping, whereas performing on the stage is a much more limiting
Oh, sure.
activity. But I feel like I've really found my calling a little bit with this
That's
versus what I'm
awesome.
doing.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And then one of the things I also wanted to touch back on is I started out as an actor too. And I think when you become a writing for theater after being an actor, I do think it informs really a lot about how you write and the fact that you understand what's happening on stage and you understand what the actor is going to have to accomplish. So
Yeah.
you know things that people who write who don't do theater first, they are never going to get that home sense of being on stage and really feeling that. Do you agree with that or?
Totally. I mean, I really care about casting because I
Hmm.
find that actors end up being my best collaborators. Like the Who By Fire is 8 characters and it's a very
Right.
ensemble piece. So trying to keep track of like the emotional journey of 8 people is very hard as an individual. But when
Sure.
I have 8 people embodying those roles, the feedback I get from them of like, I didn't speak in this scene, or like, I don't think that it doesn't make sense where I went from here to there. Suddenly, like it gives so much clarity and depth to it.
Right.
So that
Right.
I love getting in the rehearsal room and working with them.
I
They're just
also
fun
think that
process.
when you're coming from being an actor yourself, then the actors always have there's some level of respect that actors have for each other, and they know where they're coming from, which I think
Yes.
builds understanding and respect just from the get-go. So now let's jump forward a little bit to So Baby. And so
Yeah.
we met you when you entered your play So Baby in our award, the Loud Karma Emerging Female, and now we call it Gender Diverse Award because we
Oh,
wanted to be
great.
more inclusive. But so that was last year, 2025, and you were one of our winners for So Baby. And then also your play was submitted as one of the winners to CV Rep. And I know they liked your play over there too. So there's some something brewing over there possibly in the future. We don't
Oh.
know, but they are interested in your play. So I don't know if you got that feedback yet.
I did. Actually, that's so funny because I've been talking with Katie about
Yeah,
other
yeah.
plays of mine.
And she was my colleague at UCR in the writing program. So we got our MFAs together.
Oh,
So
how cool. Yeah, she's
yeah.
lovely. She came to a
Yeah.
reading of another play of mine at the Road Theater this spring, and it was great to finally meet her in
And that
person.
play is The Land of Enchantment or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
awesome. We'll talk about that too.
Um,
So go on about Katie. So she loved your play.
yeah, I mean, she just had a lot of nice things to say, and it was
Good.
she just seems like a really big supporter of the arts
Oh,
and
she is. She
new
totally
works,
is.
which is
Yeah.
great.
So good. I'm glad it's in her hands because I know she's got you on her mind as a producer
Oh,
too. So
oh,
we'll
that's
see what
awesome.
happens down the road there. And she's awesome and she's really good at picking shows. And in fact, she Star Shapiro, who won our for Obsessed in 2024, she had an equity
Yeah.
reading over at CV Rep. So
Oh,
it's
how
been a
cool.
nice relationship that we have. And it's like you always say, the people you knew at Harvard are the people you still interact with. And of course, from UCR's writing program in Palm Desert, that's a very tight group of people as
I
well.
bet.
Yeah, it's a super tight group. So she and I get to interact tightly on this. And in fact, she's one of our judges that comes in at the finalist level.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, yeah. So she's been doing our judging with me for a couple of years. So that's pretty cool.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
so
So
great.
So Baby. Well, let's talk about So Baby for people in our listening audience and also who will view this who don't know about the show. Can you give us a little overview about plot, what it's about, who are the characters? Just give us a brief outline.
Sure. So it's about 3 college freshmen who are roommates, 3 girls, and they all have very different ideas about what the college experience should be.
Right.
And it creates a lot of tension and in their tiny dorm room. And then from that, they sort of have to grow up and adjust their rigid expectations of college and of life.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
so what are the tell me, let's go a little bit over the characters. Who are the characters? And let's talk about them again because they were fascinating to me. So I want to
Oh,
talk
thank
about it
you.
again.
So there's Miri. She's I guess the protagonist, although it's really a three-hander. And she's extremely idealistic and thinks that college is about like getting an education and reading all the books. And she's also a little boy crazy. And so I think she was not very popular in high school. Like high school was all about getting into college for her. So this is her chance to now like experience life as she's dreamed of for years. So,
Awesome. Okay.
um, and then there's oh my God. What is her
Great.
Jordan?
Do we
I
need to
changed
open the script?
no, Jordan is her name. I changed the character's name once or twice, so that's
Oh,
what. Jordan is her roommate. She's African American, and she is very ambitious. She's trying to sort of lead a Black student union on campus to have a revolt against the administration. And I think she really views college as an opportunity to like find her power and make a difference in the world. And she's way less naive than Miri is, but she's naive in her own ways
right. That's
about
interesting.
what can be accomplished and just like I think she's idealistic about like sort of the revolutionary process.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's
Doesn't want to make
interesting how
deals.
they're naive in different ways. I thought that
Yes,
was
they're all
fascinating.
babies in their own ways.
Right. And
Um,
then who is the third?
so then there's Roxana, who
Mhm.
is the Russian daughter of an oligarch, and she is there to get that degree. Like, doesn't care how she gets it, just because she needs that badge of honor, and to make her parents happy. But she is not interested in school at all, and is cutting all the corners, and thinks that her roommates are like completely naive about the way of the world.
Is she your
Um,
antagonist in a way?
I would definitely say so.
Yeah, yeah. That was a
Yes.
wild character, I thought, when I read the show. I was really taken with the three-dimensional quality of these characters and how well formed they were. And also just the give and take and the interplay, just when you get three women in a small room, and if they're young too, especially just like you managed to get that how I guess it's a butting heads or this tension. You managed to carry that throughout, I think, pretty
Oh, that's
well. So
great. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, it was a cool show. So now let me ask you this. So let's talk a little bit about the Fringe run. So you did it at the Broadwater.
I did.
Okay. And so what was that experience like and what were your houses like? And
I think it was a learning experience. I don't think it was the right space for the play.
oh
Um,
really? Were
yeah,
you in
I
the
was.
black box or where were
No,
you?
I wish I had been.
Okay.
I came into it a little late and like I didn't really know anything about the Fringe, and someone told me like the Broadwater is sort of the headquarters. You want to be at the Broadwater, but all their smaller spaces were mostly full at that point,
Oh,
and
I
I
see.
was like, ooh, a big theater, like, you can sell more tickets and make more money, and this will
Right,
be,
right.
and it seemed like, very significant and real, and I was really treating it at that point as like I wanted it to be as professional as possible.
Sure.
Which I don't think was in retrospect like the right attitude for the Fringe. I think like the Fringe is a great place to like experiment and try
Right.
things and like get in people's faces.
Right. It's an
So
incubator in a lot of
yes.
ways.
And so
Yeah.
I think, it's a tiny dorm room. I think it should have been in like a very small theater and it would have had a lot more energy. And I think with
Yeah.
three young women on a huge stage, I felt like it ended up losing that a bit. Like
I
you
see.
would never
Yeah.
have a dorm room that size.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
so
And
that
because I
was a
didn't actually
big,
get to
yeah.
see it because we were doing written word. And so, the first year we did our award in 2023, we went and saw our finalists, but it's gotten so big that, we just stuck to the written
Oh
word. So
yeah,
I didn't
that'd
get
be
to see
hard.
it, but I can see where that would be problematic. And then, so you were in the largest stage at
Yeah,
Broadwater.
yeah, it was like
So
a
it's
hundred
intense.
seats
Yeah.
almost, and I mean we had pretty good houses. Like I think we always were at least half sold.
Right.
But I mean, it took a ton of hustle, and when you only have three cast members, most of the people coming are like friends, and so
Right. And all the
they
comps you can trade,
I know,
right?
exactly. And like we had no connections on the Fringe. I forced everybody I knew to come, but the like one of our we had co-directors and one was from Canada, and she had was like in the States temporarily, so she didn't know anybody.
Oh, okay.
And my actors, like, two of them were new to town. I didn't really know a ton of people, so it was like me just trying to get everybody I knew to come to that
It's
theater.
intense. I did The Masher in 2019. It's a Me Too allegory that's sort of horror because there's a lot of killing men and things like that. It's very
Oh,
cathartic,
I bet.
in a creepy way. But I do think there was that hustle. And we were at a tiny theater. We were at Studio C when that still existed, and you probably don't even know about that because
No.
that's dead. And so that was like sort of part of Theater Row, and it was a very small theater. But I do think there's that hustle of Fringe is something that you don't really know about until you've actually experienced, like, for example, the load
Yes.
in, load out process.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That was, I mean, there was a lot of things that I would do differently now. Like there's 10 scenes in So Baby, and we decided to have a full costume change between each one because they all take place
okay.
on different days. That was an insane decision for
My
Fringe.
God.
We had
Yeah, that
just
was
like,
like,
I did have a wagon full of costumes that I like
oh my
lugged
God.
around. It was,
Plus just the pain of that and also the delay of that. I don't know if you managed to, did you manage, were there breaks between scenes then, or how did that work?
yes, and that was another thing that was like not well. I think it kind of got really choppy as a result.
Right.
And it felt like 10 little vignettes. So there, there was a
Because you had
lot
to
of like,
prepare for each one, right? So
yes, there was a lot
basically,
of
you were
growing
stopping and
pains.
starting. Yeah, one of the things that I think saved my show. So there's a woman who's an actor and a great writer that I actually went to, another colleague from UCR, but very, very busy in the LA theater scene and also LA movies and acting and TV. Her name is Clorinda Ross. And so she's a
Okay.
colleague of mine. And she came to, because I was having that problem with the Masher, and ours was the stupid set changes that were like, come on, let's get moving here. And my show was running like 30 minutes over or 20 minutes over. And before we started, and so Clorinda came in, and she's so funny. She's from the South, and she looks at me and she goes, Grace, you gotta walk and talk, baby. You gotta walk and talk. And I'm like, okay. So we took all these laborious scene changes, which started and stopped our production as many times as it sounds like yours
Yeah.
started and stopped. And she goes, you can't, you got to just keep going. You have your actors move the set. And God, that was good advice. So, like, I guess if you were doing it over in Fringe and you had to keep going, you just have them changing while they're talking.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, one
Yeah.
of the challenges we faced also was rehearsal, because you're barely paying anybody, and
Right. Right.
you're trying to schedule around everyone's day jobs, and so it was like, and we luckily didn't even have a huge cast we had to schedule, but
Right.
um, trying to find windows of time to rehearse, and like we didn't have the props and the costumes and the sets. And so I think it was very haphazard, and it was hard to even worry about scene changes because we were like what are the lines
Yeah.
and like what are we doing in this scene? And because we had two directors, like it was partially for a scheduling reason. It was a little disjointed because one would direct a scene and then the next would be like, what are we doing here?
Right.
And
Change it possibly.
yes. So I
Yeah. I can
think
see.
like it was a wonderful learning experience.
Sure.
But I think
It's trial by
it
fire,
was,
basically.
yeah, exactly.
And this is why, Talisa, I think this works out so well for the Loud Karma Award to be written word. Because when I read your show and when all the other judges read your show, we were in an ideal world where everything worked and there were no
Yes.
problems with your scene changes. And there, all the stuff of real production, none of that existed. So it
Right.
was like this totally stellar production that didn't have the flaws of Fringe, the things that you had to
Yes.
contend with. So I think in that way, we were able to have more of a pure sense of your show. In ideal conditions, here's what your show would be.
I think
So,
that's
yeah.
great. Because I mean, also, like, having come from a new play development background as an actor, I was
Hmm.
like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to workshop the play. But it meant I was giving them like new pages throughout.
Hmm.
And these poor, like, we had three young women doing the show. And so them trying to remember all these lines without a great rehearsal process meant that like a lot of things are sort of made up on the stage. And so I don't know how much of the actual script we would have
A little bit of an
seen.
improv.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
Well, I do think that's one of the things that's so insane and great about Fringe is that you do get to be in this. Never has live theater meant more as far as
Completely.
right, as far as a definition. And I just think that things that happen on stage are so wild and bizarre during Fringe. So, just a brief story. When in my show, The Masher, they're mashing. Basically, it's this factory where they're mashing the bad guys, and in a masher. And so the women find this out. I know, so sick. We have to decide who I am as a person now. But the women find out that they have some level of control, and so they try to save the people who are redeemable. So it becomes a morality play. But the way we dealt with this was we had this. It was like at Studio C, they had this big closet that was kind of on stage, so we made that the masher because we didn't know what else to do. And we had a button from Home Depot that like lit up red and green, and so when you'd press the button to like red, it was going. The masher was going, and then I had all this sick, like carnival music with screaming under it, dubbed. So that was fun. But one of the things that happened, it was such a Fringe moment, is this effing button fell off. And so, it was like lying somewhere, like, in the front row. And we're the stage manager and the two, like myself and someone else. It was my Chris Smith, who's my executive producer in our company now. But we're paging through, her book, going, God, how are we gonna get that? And so, and then she turns to us, and this is our stage manager, live show during the show, and she whispers, she goes, live theater, bitches. So we're hysterical. And so we just pick this place, and she runs up and she grabs the damn thing and she slaps it back on and walks out. But, we
That's
wanted to
Fringe.
get shirts that said live theater bitches because
That's so
that's
good.
kind of Fringe. So
I love
anyway,
it.
that kind of is a period on the end of the sentence of your experience, maybe. So,
That's so
um,
funny.
so what did you want? So with So Baby, what were you hoping your message was?
Well, it's interesting. My day job is that I'm a college counselor.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so that's
cool.
sort of where the idea came from because I think I'm not when I write plays, usually I'm asking questions rather than giving answers, I think. I mean, there obviously I have some opinions about all of the things I'm saying, but I
Sure,
think like um, something I've learned from my students is how many different reasons, like college is such an important part of the growing up experience for a lot of people and like
sure,
one's life trajectory. And it's become a real like bloodbath, honestly, the application process these days. People are applying to
sure.
25 schools, and it's like, they spend all of high school trying to get in, and they have such different motivations and expectations. So I was really curious to kind of see what happened when you put those head to head and like what emerged. And I mean, the I think there's a idealism to the whole thing that's driving it in a lot of ways. This whole
Mhm.
like system where people are like deciding that this dream school is going to solve all my problems and it's going to be this perfect thing for whatever reason
Right.
and so I guess I wanted to hold that up under a microscope a little bit and see like it, what is its purpose and like what are we getting from it and why is it holding this place of uh, on like such a pedestal for so many people in this
That's
country.
interesting. And also
Yeah.
too, coming from the Harvard background, which is the quintessential college experience in so many ways, and a lofty goal, I would say, for so many people to get that experience. And
Yeah,
then
I
it
mean,
sounds like the exploration was a lot of what you were trying to examine, get people to look at that, maybe.
well, and Harvard was an interesting place because like I mean, I just wanted to be an actor and when I got in, I was sort of surprised and then went like my goal was just to like have fun, meet people, do some theater. I didn't really go with
I
like
love it.
high
That seems
expectations.
smart.
Well, and I think it was really good for me because, I saw a lot of my classmates who'd spent high school just like knuckle down, getting the work done, and they got there and then sort of like didn't really know what to do with
I'm
themselves.
sure it's
And
stressful. It's very,
yeah,
very, very stressful for a lot of people.
so I think it was, I mean, and I think the biggest part of the stress was like feeling this pressure, like you had to do something with it, or, you'd gotten there and now what?
Yeah.
So that, yeah, it was an interesting place to come from because I think I had such different motivations and goals while there than some of
Which I
my
think may have
peers.
kept you sane.
Completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I think
I had a
that's the
good
way to
time.
have it.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, that's awesome. So let's talk about your work in general. So what, like, explore your experiences of why it is theater that you love to write. Why not something else? Why not a novel?
I I mean, I think for me, the the universality of human existence is what gives me so much comfort. Like, if something bad happens in my life, if someone passes away or I'm dealing with the struggles of parenting or something, it's like I know other people are going through it as well,
Right.
and that gives me a lot of comfort. I mean, just aging and, inevitably dying, like those are really scary things, but everybody does them at some point. And so
Sure.
I think that's sort of what drives me to write is to explore those experiences, and then the theater is the most immediate way of having a conversation with people.
For
Um,
sure.
like
For sure.
I've tried writing, I mean, I'm working on a film right now and things like that, but I don't find the process as satisfying, both as an actor and as a writer, because you don't have that immediate conversation.
Right.
And I feel
Or feedback,
especially
right?
exactly like
Yeah,
nothing's better than having your play performed for people and you know right away if they're connecting with it or not. Um,
absolutely.
but I think also in this like in digital age where we're increasingly removed from people and like we're not even going to the movie theater, we're just watching them at home, like
Right.
theater is an inescapably like present activity where that's communal, and I think that's really important to me, and it's becoming even more important to me now.
Yeah. And in fact, it's that one place where people are off their phones, or if they're not off your phones, you want to
And
kill them.
that's
So,
right.
I mean, pardon me, it's like you do go to theaters every once in a while now, and you're like, somebody's on the phone, you're like, I'm gonna have to murder you. I mean,
Yeah,
it
oh, I
just feels
would.
like that. Sometimes it's
No,
just
no way.
crazy. But I do think you're right about that immediacy. And I think it's an especially disconnected time
Yeah.
for everyone. In the United States, most especially. And I think that, and we were talking about this yesterday. I was talking about this to one of the other playwrights, and it's this thing where you have this space of freedom and protection where you can create and where it's safe to, we were talking about um, social media and cancel culture and
Oh yeah.
how threatening that is to people who are creating. And we were talking about how theater is a safe space away from that. And so I really do think that that's true. As long as you don't slam everything on TikTok and go, hey, here's,
Yeah.
here's our show. But I mean, I do think that happens too. Cause like, for example, I just saw Six, the
Oh yeah.
musical. And they've really done a lot of their this is such a weird phenomenon. I've talked to a lot of people about this. I don't know, have you seen Six?
I haven't. I mean, I know what it's about
Yeah,
and
okay,
something.
so here's the weird thing. They've done a lot of their advertising and a lot of their hype has been built in social media, especially like TikTok.
Mm.
So when you get to Six, it's not like you're going to a theater. And I asked people all around the country about this, and they had this same experience. It's like people who think they're coming to a rock concert or something. They think they're coming to a concert and they're out of control and they're loud and they're stomping and screaming. It was the weirdest experience I ever had in a theater. It was so
Wow.
weird. And I thought, okay, this is just because I'm in a college town, so it's ASU and Tempe and all that. And I thought, okay, this is a college town exuberance, but I've seen a million shows there and I never had that experience. So I was asking people about, did this happen at when you saw Six somewhere else? And that's pretty much everyone I've talked to has said that's been the thing. And I think it's because of the social media influence and how people who are possibly, deciding to come and see theater that way. Well, that would also be a good thing to get new people into a theater. I think they don't understand how people act in a theater or what theater is about or how
Was it
you
disruptive or did it like
that's very
feed the energy?
disruptive.
So it
Very
wasn't like it was feeding the
there's
energy of the play
no
or something like
way.
that.
No way.
Wow.
It was like people standing on seats. It was insane. It was crazy.
Wow.
And I was really, really glad, and we had, theater seats are expensive and
Hmm.
you want to be able to enjoy it. But I mean, I think there's a combination of like, you want people there who are new theater goers and you also want people to be excited. But,
Right. Yeah,
right.
I mean, because I can see the energy of people
Yeah, yeah,
like wanting to
yeah.
treat it like a rock concert would be exciting, but also because I mean sometimes I feel like I interned at Arena Stage one year
Oh,
in
okay.
Washington D.C. and it was really interesting because they have a large African American audience there and when you'd sit in plays that were predominantly directed towards that part of the community, like the engagement from the audience was so great because they're
Right,
like it was much more of like a give and take and rather than this like sort of passive sit back like chuckle now and
right,
then thing. And I was
right.
like, oh, like how can we get more of this in the theater?
Yeah.
But there's a line between
I
like
think there's a line.
engagement and
There's a
like
line.
just
Because
chaos.
I know what you mean about engagement and involvement and people being so with you. And I think that's
Yeah.
just so important. But this was like, I was with my daughter and she's in her early 30s and she turned to me and she just goes, she said, "This is pissing me off."
Oh, yeah, that
And I'm like,
sounds
yeah, me too,
wow.
but so I mean, it was interesting, but I think I'd like to see it in a different environment. And I don't even know if that's possible,
That's
because I
fascinating.
somebody saw it. So Chris Smith saw it in LA, and you'd think that that would be a different thing there, but mm-mm. So
Wow.
it's just the buzz or the hype they got for their show, which I'm sure has made their show very lucrative. So it's kind of like, you have to look at what is theater becoming. It's an interesting,
Yeah.
you like to explore things, so I'm just posing that as what
No,
is
that is
theater
interesting.
becoming? Yeah, it is fascinating, I think. Well, anyway, we could do that all day.
Yeah, right?
Let's get back to you. So, do you move around other genres? I know you're a playwright, so you're writing movies, and so what else are you doing? Is that kind of
Um,
where you're going, movies and TV and
I mean, I love the theater. I feel like that's where I'm comfortable and like because I've been doing it since I was a kid, it's just
right?
like baked into me and a lot
Sure.
of times when I write other things people are like this sounds like a play.
Yeah,
Um
it's in your
but
DNA, right?
exactly. I would be very happy if someone wants to hire me to write television, though, because I do have to support a family.
Sure, I get it.
The movie I'm writing is a friend of mine who's a producer. It brought me on, and it's a horror film set in the Netherlands
Oh, that's wild.
about which is like I hate horror movies. This is so
Me
not my
too.
genre, but it's about these like Americans with Dutch ancestry who come back thinking that their um, great grandparents were war heroes, and it turns out that they were involved with some terrible
Oh, wow.
atrocities and are being haunted by some Jews, which I think is why they brought me in on this one because that's sort of my family history, and they wanted
Man, you'd be a well-informed person on the project as well,
yes.
which would be
But I think
good,
it's
obviously.
yeah, it feels very relevant in this time, honestly, when we're like, stuff like that's happening in our country with ICE and things like that. So it's
It's super
I'm
important.
very yeah, I think it's very easy to check out of all of this and so
It is.
writing is a way to try and maybe raise awareness.
And I think that you bring up a very interesting subject, and Chris and I actually did a podcast on this, writing in during this administration
Mm.
as a playwright. And I do think, tell me what you think about this. We were talking about the idea that we're going to only do comedy during this time and stay away from issues. That was one of the ways we were thinking of going, just for our sanity and maybe our safety. And then we were going into the free speech and it's our responsibility to speak. And then, so we were in this quandary of which one's right, and
You
so
know,
what's your view on that?
well, I'm kind of torn too. Like I was reading a piece with where they interviewed the artistic directors of like Center Theater Group and Geffen and Pasadena Playhouse. And like I think the artistic director of Pasadena was saying that, we're living in a time of such responsibility and
Right.
art is so important right now. But at the same time, I don't really want to go to the theater to be lectured at. And I think a lot of times the people going to the theater are the people who agree with you. Like
Yes,
it's a
right,
self-selecting audience. I mean,
right. There's
I
some of
saw a
that.
play a couple years ago that had to deal with climate change, and I just felt like I am so stressed out about climate change. It's something I really care about. I don't really know how to dramatize it right now, and it was like just a big lecture on how we're causing climate change.
Right, right.
And
And if you're going to
so
make a point, you need to make it in a creative way that doesn't make people feel like that soapbox thing is happening, right? So,
yeah, and like, what are our options and how can we do something about it or things like
yeah,
that? So,
it's a freaky time. I think your project, what's the name of the movie? Do you know yet or?
um, it's temporarily called What We Buried in the Woods, but
Oh, okay, I see it on here, I think on your resume, possibly. Or do I?
I don't know if I've even put it on there yet.
I'm not sure why
It's
I felt like I knew the name. But okay, so what are you gonna, is that a small production? Is that gonna be a small film or what are you doing it indie
I
or?
mean, he's gonna we're hoping to shoot it in Europe where he has a lot of connections. And I just applied for my German citizenship
Good for
because
you.
I they repatriated it to my family. So I hopefully there I think there's a lot of I mean, sadly, I think one of the reasons LA is struggling is because there's a lot of really good tax credits in Europe. So we're
Mhm.
hoping that we'll be able to make that happen there. But
Have you spent any time in Germany? Have you gotten to
no,
go
I've
there?
never been.
I love
So,
Germany. I went for the first time last fall and I just love it there. I love
oh,
it
how
there.
cool.
Yeah, I think you'll love it there. One of the things I found in the fall when I got a chance to get out of the United States for a few weeks
Hmm.
was so relaxing. It was just the most relaxing time mentally and emotionally. And I think that that's a really great place to be. You know, it's
Yeah.
as far as the calmness and the feeling that you were not like stressed and watching, you know, it wasn't like this feeling of, oh, something's going to happen, which I think we just
Oh,
almost have this
I
whole,
just all yeah,
we
anytime
have
I
a
look at the news.
nonstop feeling of dread. Isn't that
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
slush
gets
funds and ballrooms and yeah, no, it's just
gets a little
everything.
stressful. Well, so that's a cool thing you're doing. And so you may get to shoot that over there, which would also be cool and life
Yeah,
changing. You would love that.
totally.
Oh, that
Yeah.
keep us posted on that because I would definitely love to know what happens with that in the future. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
well.
so so let's talk a little bit about your process. How do you write? How do you get into it? How do you get ideas? What's your maybe your daily process and your idea process?
Yeah, I mean my ideas, I don't have like a official process for them. I think it's just things that um I'm interested in ideas that are have a lot of angles and like things that you can explore from different sides. Like so
Right.
baby with the three different things or with Who by Fire, it was like every person in the family sort of had a different relationship to religion. Because I'm like uh, I mean, I think especially in this really divisive time, there's justifications on both sides, and it's not like there's half the country's bad and half the country's good or something like that. It's like it's so much more complicated. So I'm
Hmm.
really interested in like those types of questions that don't feel like they've been solved yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Land of Enchantment, this play that I've been working on with the Road, is about a family of artists where like the an accident was caused, and it's sort of like whose fault was it? And you can kind of like you can really blame anybody in the family. And so I find those types of scenarios interesting, and I like to dig into them.
So
I
it sounds
tend,
like to me you're dealing with relationships a lot
mhm,
and you
yeah.
want to know how people interact, if it's a family, if it's a close group, what's their structure and what's their vibe together.
Exactly. And like, how are they pinging, ponging off of each other?
Right.
So when I sit down, I think like the first thing I do is usually map out characters to some extent. I mean, a lot of the work is done as I write and then rewrite and then rewrite and then rewrite.
Sure, sure.
But like, at least kind of start like force myself to sit down and make some decisions to start with.
Hmm.
And then I write like a really brief outline so that I know like vaguely where I'm headed, and then I usually just dive in. And I write in the morning usually when my kids are at school, like working around my other work and what other stuff I have to do.
Just
And
when you have a minute of space
yeah, I find I
and
actually
quiet,
do.
possibly.
Yeah, I do a lot of the thinking when I'm not in front of the computer, and then I sit down and like write it all down.
Sure, sure. There's
So
like a, yeah, definitely. That's good. And you've touched on developing characters really before you get truly into your writing. Is that kind of a thing that you do? Because
yeah, I think like I try and
or
make
exploring
some
them.
decisions exactly because I like so if I force myself to sit down and really think about who these people are, um, it makes like so much about the a play is about the dynamics between these people, and so if I don't
Mhm.
know who they
Mhm.
are before I sit down, it's kind of hard to do that.
Do you
And
know, yeah,
yeah.
that's such a one thing on that interesting point. I've been working. Have a show that I'm doing, still writing called The Flourishing right now, and it's about a writer whose muse comes to her, and it's
Mm,
like an ancient muse, one of the muses, and so I'm stuck in this thing. Like you oftentimes get in the middle, and you're like, what the hell is this about? So I'm working with this
yes.
great dramaturg. His name is John Perovich, and so he suggested to me something that I had been unaware of, and everyone else I know has done this. It's this thing where you sit down and you ask your character to talk to you and like
Oh,
tell you about them. Like you said, could you just start asking your character questions like you're talking to them, writing it down. And it's so weird because, at least in my experience, and who knows if this is a sign of my mental illness, but they just start talking to you and you're typing it out and it's suddenly like they're talking. And
that's so
it'd be
cool.
fun for you to try it. Yeah, I had never done
Yeah,
it, but then I actually talked to my daughter who's writing a web comic, and she goes, "Of course I do this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know about how cool
that's
this
so
is."
funny.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I've
it's
never
really
done
interesting.
anything that's like in exactly that way. But that, I
Mhm.
mean, that makes complete sense because I feel like I end up doing something similar, not necessarily a conversation, but like I mean, my when I first started out, I was really just like, oh, this character's this person I know, and this, and that's how I got like the specifics.
Right.
But then, I mean, I think there's danger in that for multiple reasons. Like one is,
If they're
you,
coming to the theater.
yeah, you might offend a lot of your family members. But also, then like when you're casting, you get married to this idea of who the person is, and I
Right.
actually think a lot of times the most exciting actors I've worked with are people who were not how I necessarily envisioned the character, but just like brought a
Hmm.
new color to it and like found themselves in it. So that when I've been working with the road on this play, what's great is uh every time you I think I got to like do 3 or 4 readings with them, and we got to cast totally different people every time. And so
Oh,
it really like
wow.
helped flesh out the characters because every time I'd hear like a new voice and a new color.
Sure.
And then it just creates so much more depth and
So now
sharpness.
with the roads, Talissa, are you cast in like a workshop season or how is that working over there?
So I was part of their cohort. They pick several writers every year to develop a play with them. You like pitch the idea, and you write for a couple months, and then you start doing Zoom reads of it, and then you can like get notes on that, and then it culminates in a workshop, which I did in um, February. But I mean, I think there's a chance it might go on. The director of that program has been working with me as the director on the piece, and she's phenomenal and
Oh, that's
is
awesome. Who is that?
yeah, Carlisle King. But she is like she's just helped me figure out so many missing pieces, and
That's so awesome.
I love working with a good director because
Oh,
there's
yeah,
just
yeah.
so much you
What a
gain from that.
great process that is, and how
Yeah.
cool to have a chance to develop your play like that. You know?
Yeah, the deadlines really helped me just like
Oh, yeah.
push a play out.
I do think deadlines are, and I think it's hard to self-impose. We can all try, but I have a very strong sense of disobeying my rules. So, but I mean, I think when you're working to someone else's deadline, even if you create a false deadline, like if you decide, okay, I'm working with a dramaturg and I'm setting an appointment. So, I mean, that's creating a deadline, but I do think I think creative people have to sometimes rein themselves in to make sure they're getting getting it
Yeah.
done. So,
Well, and it weirdly forces you to just make decisions. Like if I had
hmm
10 pages due and I had 0 pages written, like I had to put something on the page and
right,
then
right.
things would come out. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of good stuff can happen that way. So if you were going to talk to somebody who was maybe okay, so this is going to relate to you because you have the college students that you work with. So
Hmm.
someone comes to you and they say, I want to be a playwright. I've heard that you do it and it's awesome. So what would your advice be?
I mean, I think like know that for a long time you may just be getting your 10,000 hours of craft. Like I think I mean I personally didn't really have anything to write about until I was in almost my 30s. I think I
Hmm.
just but I mean obviously everyone has different life experiences and there's
Sure.
plenty of young good playwrights, but I think know that there's going to be a lot of rewriting. Um and that like a lot of the stuff you do in the beginning may just be an exercise.
Right. Right.
Because I mean, like before I wrote Who by Fire, I wrote many bad scripts of other varieties. And I've written plays since that no one will ever see that were just I had to learn.
The
Um
hidden plays, right?
Yes, yes. There's one about 8 guys on a golf weekend that my husband was like, "What is this?"
It's
But
going to be like stolen and released sometime, and you'll be like, no.
yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, I think like, and also that way you'll start to develop your voice and
Sure.
realize, because a lot of times in the beginning, maybe you're trying to imitate somebody. I mean, I read like I love Arthur Miller, and I feel like I was
Right.
trying to like write like Arthur Miller, and then I finally was like, I can't. He's Arthur Miller, and I'm me.
There's always
So
somebody that you have like that. I think Tennessee Williams was my idol like that for quite a long time. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna be Arthur Miller meets Annie Baker, and like, I think I just got to be whatever I
oh,
am.
that's awesome.
But you
Okay.
start to also see, like, I used to always have everybody enter the room and then leave the room, and then you're like, maybe you could start in the middle.
Yeah,
So things
yeah,
like that where you
right.
notice your habits. Um, and then yeah, I don't know. I think it was a really good experience doing the Fringe because you can just write all day and have nobody ever read it, or you can do readings of your plays and they go nowhere. I've done a lot of readings, which are helpful, but
Getting it
like,
out there is something really, really special. And that
yeah,
remains, that's the goal of writing plays.
yeah,
You want to get them
yeah.
up somewhere somehow. So I think that to that end, that was a very, very successful experience. So that's so cool. So the last question is the legacy question. So not only, so it's two parts. One is what do you see happening in the next 5 years? And then what would you like? So let's say 25 years from now, when students are writing article or writing essays on your work, what do you want them to glean, or who do you want to be as far as your legacy?
So next 5 years for me or like for the world?
For you.
Oh, good.
I
I was like,
think
I don't know.
I think I
Our
know
world
what
might be
we're
on
gonna say
fire.
for the world, but for
Yeah, I
you.
mean, I think for me, like, I would love to have a equity production or two or five of some of my plays. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it's one of those things where once, the ball gets rolling, it will come. But I'm just writing and writing as much as I can until then, and trying to move the needle and as much as I have the power to do so.
Good.
Yeah. And then, I mean, 25 years from now, I would love it if people felt my plays still mattered and like were not flashes in the pan, but like really revealed something about a moment we lived in, but also about like a human existence that is uh like illuminating no matter the time. I know that's
Yeah.
what I was reading. I reread a bunch of Arthur Miller plays recently, and I was just blown away by how relevant they still were. And that like I'm really trying to find a timelessness to the work that I as much as I can, which I don't.
Yeah, that I think that it and that is a sign of an excellent play when it can have a revival and it's still so powerful. Death of a Salesman's on Broadway, and
Yeah, I have a friend in that right now, and
really
it's yeah.
Nathan Lane is in it.
Um,
So I just heard him interviewed on NPR and it was just incredibly powerful. So
I really want to somehow get out there to see it because
my husband's going on a
sounds
business trip
incredible.
to New York in a couple weeks. I said I wasn't going to go, so maybe I should change my mind and
It's
get out
supposed to
there and at
be
least see that.
like I've literally heard people say it's a life-changing production. So
Well, Nathan Lane,
well, and
and you
Lauren
have a friend in
Metcalf,
it.
and
You have a friend in it.
he's the cover for Biff and Happy, and but he's gone on a whole bunch of times, and it's
Oh,
just
that's
been I
awesome.
know I've been like living vicariously through him the
Oh
past
my
couple
God. And
months.
now he
So
knows Nathan Lane. So you're one
exactly,
degree of separation away from Nathan Lane, who's one of my
that's all I
heroes.
need.
I love Nathan Lane.
He
He's
sounds like he's wonderful to work with and is a really
Oh
good guy.
yeah.
So
How cool. Well, that is
yeah.
super cool information. All right. So you have basically given us such a good view of who you are, and I really appreciate it. What I want you to do in the future is stay in touch with us and make sure you tell us when things are happening so we can help publicize you and celebrate your success with you.
Well, thank you
So
so
yeah, but
much.
thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. It was awesome for you to share this time with us.
Thank you. I loved it.
Good.